This year marks the centenary of one of the worst disasters in the history of the lifeboat institution. In the early hours of Friday, October 27th, 1916, the Salcombe lifeboat, the William and Emma, was called out to render assistance to a schooner, the Western Lass, which had been driven ashore near Pearl Point near hurricane force winds. The lifeboat was launched from the South Sands boathouse. It was a pulling and sailing lifeboat, and there were doubts as to whether it could get across the bar at the entrance to the harbour. But using all the skill and strength, the crew managed to row out over the bar through the breakers and then set sail for Pearl Point, which was about 2 miles to the southeast. Once they rounded Pearl Point, they saw that the Western Lass was ashore, but the crew had already been saved by the Pearl Point Coast Guard, so there was nothing for it but for them to return home, which meant sailing back in the teeth of the southwesterly gale. When they reached the bar, they saw that angry seas were breaking over it, and it wasn't fit to cross, so they turned away, went out to open sea. And some of the crew were in favour of running down to Dartmouth, but the coxswain said, let's go in and have another look. And by the time they got back to the bar, they'd been in the boat for about 3 hours, and they were cold, wet and exhausted, so they decided to give it a try. But just as they were about to lower the masts and get out the oars, a huge wave, a mountainous wave, broke over the port quarter and capsized the lifeboat, stern over bow, and threw all the men into the water. It was a non-self-righting lifeboat, so all the crew could do was try and cling on to the upturned hull. But as much as they tried to hang on to the lifelines and the hand battens, they were washed away by successive crashing waves, until only 2 remained, Eddie Diston and Bill Johnson. They were the sole survivors. Many of the townsfolk had gathered on the cliffs above to watch the return of the lifeboats, and they witnessed the capsize. And for them, the sight of those men battling to save their lives within sight of their homes must have been almost too much to bear. The small, close-knit community of Salcombe was plunged into a state of shock, and 8 widows and 20 dependents, children and other dependents, were left behind to mourn the loss of those brave men.